Hello, scumbags.
Hi.
Welcome to Rebel Scum
Podcast.
a video cast. It's our first one with video.
Hey, you can see us.
Hi,
Look at us.
I'm James.
I'm Brock.
And like we said, this is the Rebel Scum podcast.
You're watching the 300th episode of the Rebel Scum podcast. From odds making to list rankings and some special guests, we've got you covered. And don't forget to join us on Patreon and join the show. Here are your hosts, Brock and James, and definitely not Andrew.
You were always scum.
Rebel Scum.
Rebel Scum, that of course is a clip from The Last Jedi, the movie that propelled our podcast from 7,000 views to 38 views. Hey everyone, this is the Rebel Scum podcast. I'm James. I am alone. Brock is nowhere to be seen, but we got Mr. Rez in the chat, Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast is in the chat, and Heidi is in the chat right now. And joining me reluctantly from Naboo is Andrew Fantasia. Andrew Fantasia's here, filling in for Brock Smink, who's having technical difficulties. Hey, Andrew.
Are you an angel?
Yippee! We're just going to sit here and quote our favorite Star Wars quotes. And Yippee and Are You an Angel are two of those.
That's
Andrew,
it. Those are the only two I like.
Only two that you like. Andrew, thanks for stopping by, filling in for Brock, who is having technical issues at the moment, but he's going to be here. We promise. 300. This is the first one he's missed an opening. Either one of us, I think, have missed an opening for. But what are you going to do? The show must go on. Can you believe we've been doing this for 7 years of this podcast?
Incredible. I still remember the first day, like the first call of like, hey, you want to do a podcast about the Star Wars? It's still like clear as a bell, even though it was 7 years ago.
And you said no twice.
I said no twice.
You were like, no.
Yeah,
No.
I wanted to just do a podcast about Hugh Grant movies, and I relented until you finally agreed to make me canon, and I gave in.
And you're never going to be canon. You're not canon today. You're not canon tomorrow. I think the T-shirt's still on the page for canon or not. Disney took a lot of our stuff down. A lot of it down. I think.
Boo! Pay your actors.
Disney is probably the worst. They ruined Star Trek, and they ruined Chicken Little.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch the Disney short Once Upon a Studio?
Is that the one where all the people came
Yeah.
to life?
Yeah.
I didn't watch it fully, but it was on TV. My mom was watching something and it was on whatever she was watching as like a bumper. So I kept catching it on the corner of my eye, and it looked nice. I guess it looked, it was beautiful to look at. Like,
it's a cool short. You should check it out. I am a shill for Disney. The company owns this podcast, as everyone knows. A lot of people, well, two people have commented on George Lucas in the thumbnail of this video. If you're listening, you can't see the thumbnail. If you're on YouTube, the thumbnail, I don't know. I typed in sad George Lucas on Google, and that one popped up, and so I used it. And I think he looks pretty upset with what Kathleen Kennedy has done. And I heard a rumor, Andrew, just a small rumor, that there might be news on Kathleen Kennedy and her future at Lucasfilm later. They saved it for the 300th episode of the Rebel Scum podcast. So later on, we might have some exclusive breaking news that we've never broken on this podcast ever.
well, it's happening here because this is the place for it to happen. It's like the halftime show of Super Bowls, right? This is where you go if you're a Star Wars person. This is the halftime show.
We're the Rihanna of podcasts.
I'm the Janet Jackson. I'm going to have a nipple slip at some point on this podcast. I won't tell you when, but it's gonna happen.
Like Andrew, it's been 11 years of Disney. People call it Disney Star Wars. Some people get upset with the term Disney Star Wars, and other people say it kind of maliciously. I say it as in, well, Disney owns Star Wars, and it's a new era of Star Wars, so it is Disney Star Wars. It is separate from George Lucas Star Wars. It's kind of a different thing.
Yeah,
Better or worse, whatever you think, it doesn't matter. But it is kind of its own thing. But 11 years, a few days ago, I think Sunday or Monday was the 11-year anniversary of that deal. We talk about it all the time this time of the year on the podcast. I was at work and I text Brock and my dad right away. I'm like, this is insane. Like, I thought it was great news because of what they had done at that point with Iron Man mostly, and then all the Avengers stuff leading up to it. So I was very excited. Okay, what did you make of that? And then I'll get into my real question.
Of the Disney announcement back then.
Yeah.
I was just floored.
You were in preschool.
I was in preschool. I was learning how to spell the color blue when the teacher told us to make a circle, and she clapped her hands, and then she told us the good news. But I was actually playing Assassin's Creed 3 because it had just come out, and that was my obsession at the time was Assassin's Creed because it actually had a serialized story, James, and they were brave enough to do that in a video game, and nobody has been brave enough to do that before or since. But I was so excited to get to the end of a big point in that story, and as I was playing it, I got a text from Robin Williams, not the actor, a different Robin Williams, who tells me in a very frenzied text, I could tell his fingers were just firing. Disney bought Star Wars and they're going to make episodes 7, 8, and 9 plus spinoffs. And I had to do a double take and pause my game and say, this is not real, right? This can't be real. Is this a joke? And then it turns out it was, in fact, real. And before I knew it, they had already announced some J.J. Abrams stuff. And yeah, I still don't know how to spell blue, Heidi. There's an R in it somewhere. I'm getting there.
The JJ stuff came pretty quickly, actually. Yeah. Well, first there was like a list of names of directors that came, but I was more optimistic because of like the MCU stuff. But the idea that we were going to get more Star Wars also, it was like, okay, finally, because it was kind of dead again. Like we had Clone Wars, but it was dead. Like it was in the 90s. So it was exciting to hear that. But now we've got 11 years of the Disney era Star Wars happening, which started kind of slow, actually. Like, I mean, and I think in a pretty good way. I mean, it wasn't slow, but it was slow. It took 4 years to get to The Force Awakens, and then we went boom, 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 boom with movies. And I was going to get a clip, but I didn't have time to snag it. I think it's of the very first episode we ever posted on YouTube. I wish I played this clip right now because I say in this podcast, Andrew, I'm like, who knows how Rogue One's going to do? It might flop, but Solo's coming, and Solo's going to do huge. That's paraphrasing, but I basically predicted the future. You couldn't be more right about what I said. I knew from the get-go, obviously. But it's funny when you go back and you listen to those things and you watch those things, how like our perception of Star Wars was so very different. We're a lot more optimistic, I think. We hadn't gone through the 900 the DC style films that have been announced but never really thought of, the coming and going. And now I think we're so disenchanted with Star Wars announcements that, at Celebration, the one that just happened, you were over for day one of that. And I just remember kind of being like, I'm not excited for these announcements because I don't believe them. And I think that is the biggest problem for me with Star Wars at the moment is I don't trust it. I just don't trust it unless it's Favreau, Filoni are involved, because they seem to like, whether you like what they're doing or not, it gets done. But everybody else is like, it's just everything else seems to just fall off.
Yeah, and we've had 300 episodes to kind of roll down that hill, and I agree that we are disenchanted with Star Wars announcements, but thankfully, what I love so much about Rebel Scum podcast is we never get disenchanted with Star Wars. Our eyes still light up with glee when we hear the Millennium Falcon or a TIE fighter, or when we see somebody go or say, I have a bad feeling about this, right? There's always going to be that love here. And, you look back at 7 years ago, the amount of Star Wars podcasts out there were not huge. Right? When you threw this idea out at me, I was like, ooh, that sounds like an interesting thing. I'm a podcast guy and I don't know any Star Wars podcasts. So yeah, why not be part of one? And now they're everywhere, right? There's as many Star Wars podcasts as there are grains of sand on Tatooine at this point. But the world of fandom has changed since the inception of Rebel Scum podcast to now. And people have come in and become new fans who weren't before. A lot of old fans have said Star Wars is dead and they hate it now. They hate what Disney did and they dropped off and they started whole new podcasts of how much they hate it. And it's just become this farcical place to be. That's exactly the right amount, Scarif Scuttlebutt. That is exactly the right amount of podcasts that there are about Star Wars. I feel like every time I log on to Twitter, there's a new one in my recommendations. Yeah. But I love that we came this far, we rode that wave, and we're still at a point, at least I'm still at a point, where I will be excited to see a new Star Wars thing or read a new Star Wars thing. But until it's in my hands or on a screen, yeah, the announcements aren't cutting it anymore because we've crossed that bridge, and I think it's been burned for us by all the false starts. But you mentioned the whole thing about Rogue One and Solo. Wouldn't it be great to we should find like an intern and get them to go back through all of our episodes and find like the top 20 funniest times we were wrong and make like a playlist.
I think we've got some good ones. That was surprising because I think it's a Halloween episode. I'm pretty sure it's the first podcast that we ever put up. So I think it's like I guess it'd be number 10 or 11, somewhere around there. And it's our logo with like some jack-o'-lanterns on it. I was very clever back then with thumbnails. I was like, today's proofs. But it's just funny hearing that you're like, well, Solo's going to make a lot of money because it's Han Solo, obviously. And couldn't be more wrong. But I want to bring this up right here from Scuttlebutt. And in retrospect, I really would have liked if George Lucas finished the sequels on his own before selling. And this is something that Brock and I kind of touch on once in a while. I think you and I have kind of talked about. And I'm of two minds of this. One, I'm not going to take away from the sequels. I don't want to, but I kind of agree in a lot of ways because it's George Lucas's story. How is he going to end it? And you see the interviews with him talking about what he was going to do. And I'm like, I really want to see it because I think he's like the prequels, hit or miss, whatever it was for you. They had a great overarching story. I thought like that's the whole thing. I think he would have been better at that than the sequels, mostly because nobody decided to think past their own movie. But I feel like there would have been the same amount of hate driven towards it because people hate and I'm sure Scarif Scuttlebutt remembers, people hated the prequels. Like they hated those. I remember going to the movies, The Phantom Menace. I loved it. I remember leaving and people were like, it was so bad. I'm like, did I watch the same movie as you? And Attack of the Clones, you obviously love that movie. For me, the first time I saw it, I was a little bit underwhelmed, but that's mostly because I ruined it by going online. And then the second time, I'm like, this is a great movie. Why do people not like this movie? And Revenge of the Sith, that one is one now, more than the other two, where the generation that were kids then are kind of, when we do our ranking Star Wars, that's the one that they're propelling now up higher. And I think it was like number 3 or 4 last year. Like that's going higher and higher on the list. And I know you hate it with a passion, but it keeps going up. And I think it's because the generation that grew up with it, that's their Empire Strikes Back, right? That's the one where the hero goes to the dark side. And it's fun to see that.
Well, look, at the end of the day, the number of Pepsi cans with Watto on them.
Oh, I brought that to the theater.
The number of Pepsi cans with Constable Zuvio on them, 0. Prequels are always going to have that advantage.
You know, that's one thing the sequels did great was pushing Constable Zuvio. He isn't even in the movie. He, like, of all the characters, he was in the first Darth Maul comic. Not him, but like his species. And they all, I guess they all look like that. So that's who they need to push into the Mandoverse.
If there is a true Glup Shido, it's him at this point.
Yeah,
he's the real one. The prequel hatred, man, I didn't understand it either. And to me, the nostalgia for even though I was obviously much younger when I saw the originals, the nostalgia for the prequels is always going to hit the hardest for me. And any Star Wars story we get in any medium that is set in that prequel era, I'm just like this. Just like, yep, Heidi says Star Wars was at its best when Lucas isn't surrounded by yes men. In fact, A New Hope was a disaster until Lucas's wife edited. Yeah, Lucas needed people to step in and help him out, and sometimes he had them, and sometimes he didn't. But I'm never going to stop loving the prequels the same way I'm never going to stop loving Star Wars. And we have gotten to a point, thankfully, where a lot of people can feel comfortable acknowledging that they liked them, which maybe was hard to do in the past because it was so overwhelmingly negative, and you could kind of get your throat jumped down. And I hope one day the sequels become the same. You know, I hope one day people be like, yo, I straight up love this part of Rise of Skywalker, and everybody could be like, right on, right? So we'll get there. We'll get by episode 600, we will be there.
I always think of Ahmed Best saying, how George Lucas said, the kids are going to, in 20 years, the kids are going to love you. And 20 years later, the kids love him. And not only do they love him, they brought him into the Mando to save Grogu. Not Jar Jar, obviously, but Ahmed Best. Like, they brought him in, and then he got such a huge, warm reception for that. And even Hayden Christensen, I remember when we went to Celebration 6 years ago, we went in Orlando. They did the anniversary, and Hayden Christensen came on the screen, and everybody was cheering him on. Mm-hmm. And I saw a tweet and be like, yeah, everybody hates him. Why are they suddenly cheering him? I'm like, because it's different now. Like, people, first of all, you don't boo somebody when you're there celebrating the franchise that they're a part of. That's just dumb. But it's been 20 whatever years it was at that point. People have grown to love him, and the kids now are older, and they appreciate him for what he brought to the role. And that's their Luke Skywalker. Like, that's their hero right there. Like, that's who they grew up with.
And every time I see a little girl dressed up as Rey, I'm like, that's what's important. We don't matter. That's what matters right now. And that girl is going to grow up with love for Star Wars, and she's going to show it to the next generation. And she's going to be like, I got to tell you about this great hero named Rey, who was part of my upbringing. And in regards to George's sequels, I mean, I'm always going to be the guy, like, I will toot this horn till the day I die, where if there's a heaven, it's a place where we can watch all of these what if movies, right? We can watch Colin Trevorrow's Duel of the Fates. We can watch George's sequels. We can watch James Cameron's Spider-Man and just see what they would have looked like. We can watch Superman Flyby, or whatever that one was, where Nicolas Cage had long hair.
I'm terrified of Colin Trevorrow's Duel of the Fates episode. Terrified. Do you know why?
Standing right behind you.
Because I've seen his Jurassic Park movies, and I am absolutely horrified of what's to come. It would make less sense. But I'll say something about the Rise of Skywalker and kids growing up with it. Is when COVID first hit, before it was like a big thing. Well, it was a big thing, but before like it blew up, it wasn't. Like we had our nieces and nephew over that week, just randomly. They happened to be over, and I pre-ordered The Rise of Skywalker on iTunes, and they released it. I think it was like 5 days early or something because of COVID. They're like, "Hey, let's just release this. If you bought it, instead of getting it on Tuesday, you get it on the Friday or Thursday or whatever." And I was like, "Oh my god, we got it. We should watch this with the kids." They hadn't seen it yet, and they were, I think, 2 of them were under 10, so we're watching it, and they like Star Wars. They're not obsessed. But when Rey Palpatine happened, the 2 youngest ones, their jaws dropped. And they were like, what? Like their minds were blown. And somebody commented on it, and I posted it on Instagram, and somebody commented like, oh, how could you ruin them? Like, I was like, they're kids, first of all. This is for them. This is their moment. Like for me, the cheesy moment was Luke and Leia being brother and sister, obviously. Like, that was never supposed to happen. That wasn't the plan, but it happens. You're like, what? And this was like a big moment for them. And so I think in 20 years, when they're older, they might look back on these movies, maybe not them because they're not obsessed, but people who grow up more obsessed with it will look back and love the sequels the way the prequels were loved. And I don't think you'll ever hit how the original trilogy is loved. That's a different thing because that was its own thing. But the second and third generations, it might happen.
No, that's a very good parallel because we look back at Jedi and we love it. And we're like, yeah, it was kind of stupid for them to throw that twin thing in last minute, but it is what it is. But your niece and nephew, what was their like? How much Palpatine knowledge did they have? I'm curious because they're young. Like, what did they? As soon as they heard that name, were they like,
yeah?
"Oh!"
Oh, they knew right away. Their jaws dropped. I think there's a picture on the Rebel Scum Instagram where their jaws have dropped because they're like. Like my nephew's like pointing, and then the next day, I always bring this up. The next day, they grabbed sticks outside and they started like playing lightsabers with it. And
I
it was
love
like,
it.
I'm like, you can hate the movie all you want, but that's that's the point of it, I guess. Brock may or may not be here. I'm going to ask him to give a thumbs up when he is ready to go, and then I'll bring him in. Oh, he gave a thumbs up. He gave a thumbs up. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time since our 299th episode, the king of the castle, Brock, is here.
Hello there.
I should have got a crowd goes wild noise. Oh, the crowd goes wild.
All right, let's start. What's up, everybody? Rebel Scum Podcast. I'm Brock. This is James.
Andrew. Whoa. I'm James. Brock, we were just talking about how great Star Wars is and how the sequels might be looked upon a lot more pleasantly in the years to come. And Andrew was saying that he actually has never liked Star Wars less than he did now.
Yeah, it's the worst thing in the world.
Okay, let's do the show for real now. Get out of here. You're gone, Andrew. Let's do the podcast for real. Episode 300.
Wow.
Why are you laughing? Let's do the podcast. Here we go. Brock, did you see the South Park episode that aired this week? Last week? Me neither.
I'm not on South Park at all.
Me neither, but apparently they took shots at Andrew's commenting from our Andrew's taking over, and my wife is none too happy.
My wife.
Nobody likes Fantasia to be canon. Okay, he's not canon. He won't be here. I didn't see it either, but I heard what happened, and Andrew switched back to his personal. But I heard what happened. Apparently, they took shots at the people who hate Kathleen Kennedy, and then they took shots apparently of Kathleen Kennedy, and that's all we'll talk about. But how do you what I asked Andrew at the beginning though was it's been 11 years now of Disney's Star Wars, and the last couple of years it's really exploded. I thought with everything.
Yeah.
So what would you make of the 11 years of it so far?
Fantastic. It's just I mean, we've talked about it before. We forget the fact that George Lucas really wasn't making a ton of stuff to begin with, so it's I mean, yeah, maybe you could say I don't really like this, I don't really like that, but there's a lot of Star Wars stuff, and it's we could say, oh, I didn't really care for Ahsoka, but most people really like Mandalorian, so it's just you can't really take one without the other. I don't know. It's just I think it's what's the best. Disney, back me up on this. Galaxy's Edge is probably one of the best park sections they've made in Disney in a long time. So it's that all exists because Disney bought Star Wars, and there's a myriad of other Star Wars comics are really good, really good. So I don't know.
So that's the thing. It's expanded beyond into comics, and they come. I think a lot of people are mad about Legends, but I still am okay with. I'm so okay with them making Legends because you have to create your own thing, and you can't be bogged down by what happened when people just randomly were allowed to tell stories. Yeah. And Star Cruiser was even better, and now she's crying. Speaking of crying, let's bring Andrew back. We did, Brock, just so you know, we did talk about that before we came on.
Oh, yeah.
It was planned.
And Brock, I've been waiting a long time to tell you about this, but I finally, for the first time in my life, started watching Boy Meets World.
For the first time in forever. Oh, wow. What season are you on?
I'm near the beginning of season 3 where Sean just bought a pet pig.
What?
Oh man, and it's gonna get good. It's gonna get real good. Is the sister young still, or slightly older, or different actor?
Last time I saw her, she was still little.
Yeah, because there's like a whole joke where they get rid of that actor or whatever reason. It's
no.
you'll see it coming. It's a totally different actress.
Yeah, it changes.
Yeah.
We have this coming here. How much better would it have been if the parks included legacy Star Wars locations instead of the new stuff? Apparently, it was supposed to be original trilogy stuff, and then Bobbert Iger saw the dailies for The Force Awakens, and he decided to make it all sequel trilogy stuff. I haven't been, so I can't comment. But Brock, you've been there. Desi's been there. Heidi's been there. Anybody that's been there, weigh in on this one.
I think it's the best move to create a whole new planet that it exists on. Like Batu gets mentioned a lot in a lot of different things, under medium, and it's like, Lord knows, Star Wars fans are so belligerent on facts and all that. So it's like, we have a planet that's like, we can do whatever we want with it. And then because they have the money, they flesh it out in comics and books and what have you. But then they're like, oh, and here comes, Rey just walked by, but it's because she's visiting the spaceport, or Kylo Ren is looking for rebels somewhere in the same spaceport. It makes more sense to me. And then because it's like, if you make, I don't know, say it was Mos Eisley, it would be like, if you didn't get it down to the T, people would be losing their minds. But it's like, you forget about that part. I would argue that if they did it anyways and you were walking around, it'd be like, wow, this is very, very cool. But making it Batu, Black Spire, it's just perfect.
From an outside perspective, and you guys can all weigh in on what I'm saying here and call me an idiot if you want, but my feeling is making it canon in a timeline is kind of weird, because then they're handcuffed to everything, because they're like, oh, and now Ahsoka's there and Mando's there. It's like, yeah, that's how it kind of should be. I don't think you need to just be like, it's only between The Force Awakens and Last Jedi, or Last Jedi and right, whatever it is. Like that, I always thought that was a strange choice, and I think they're kind of veering away from that. But for me, that's the only thing I've thought. I think it's great that it is a new planet for sure.
I think it would be smart to work in something that has to do with any of the shows or movies. So it's like you can go, and maybe the first 3 or 4 times you've gone, which is probably not everyone's experience, but say I've been to Disney World in the last 5-6 years 3 times, right? And only 1 time did I go to Galaxy's Edge. So I could have gone to Galaxy's Edge 3 times. Perhaps by the 3rd time, I'm like, maybe I didn't have a great time. It's because the first time you go, after that, it's like drugs. We're just chasing that high every time. So it's I would say the best marketing move on Galaxy's Edge is to have it work with whatever new show, whatever new thing. As you walk in, it's like, oh, by the way, today's event follows that of the storyline of A New Hope or Mandalorian season 3. That'd be kind of cool. Some people would be like, I don't care, but for the people that are really immersed in it, they're like, oh, very cool. I think Desi can back me up on this. She's like, if she were to go and be like, this is original trilogy day or this is sequel day, your costume immediately changes because maybe you're a different character or maybe you're a different faction. And yeah, there we go. Desi. It's amazing. I don't like rides, but the 2 rides in this park are out of this world, out of this world. So that alone, you're going to be happy no matter what. And then just walking around, it's cool. I don't know. I'm also very biased towards Disney World. I'm I'm in, baby.
Andrew, do you ever plan on going to Galaxy's Edge?
I don't. I'm not a park guy, really. I don't really love the idea of going to the theme park, really. I'm sorry, Desi. You make it sound like a lot of fun whenever you talk about it, but I don't know, something about it doesn't jive with me. But I'll tell you one thing. If they made a park where you could just go stand in a full-size recreation of the Senate and you can call a vote of no confidence on somebody, I am there. Vote now.
like just retrofit the Star Cruiser. Like it's, I'm sure it's the building that it's in is still there. Like just don't make it a hotel. Just make it an experience. Like, do you walk through? I guess it wouldn't still be the same because then you're allowing the general public to get in. So it's like line upon line upon line.
Oh no, I've been canceled.
Oh, this is how it ends.
I like that Heidi's
Democracy.
like, I still have my $6 Coke bottle. I wish it
Better.
was only $6.
Yeah, that's another reason why I don't go. Is I will come back homeless.
Everybody's got the Coke bottle, apparently. I got an apron. That's what I was given from Galaxy's Edge. An apron. I'm okay with that. I plan on going. I went to, where did I go? Oh, Hollywood. Is it Hollywood Studios? Is that the one? Hollywood Studios? Yeah, they did a parade. We were doing so. Aaron and I were doing something. It was early in the morning, and all of a sudden Star Wars music starts playing, and I don't notice it at all. But Aaron's like, "James, it's Star Wars!" And she grabs me, and we went, and they had the First Order walking down, and Phasma kept pulling people out of the crowd to talk to them, and that was really cool. They do Star Wars from what I saw without going to Galaxy's Edge, which wasn't open when I was there last 4 or 5 years ago. They do Star Wars well at Disney. Disney gets it. And George Lucas, there's a quote in the Walt Disney Museum in San Francisco where George Lucas says Star Wars should be a Disney movie. Paraphrasing, but he says that it's on the wall in a quote, and it says George Lucas says it should be a Disney movie or what, something to that effect. And it's like, yeah, I guess maybe you're right. And now it is, and everybody hates it. So
that's how it worked. Hey, We Were Wizards should be a Disney movie.
Apparently, Life Day is on the 17th. We're in November.
Oh,
I'm literally like reading this message, this comment from Disney Desi saying, "I'm away next week for Life Day. There's a rumor Chewie will be in his red robe." And I'm thinking, Life Day already. We're like 3 months away. We're in it. We're good. Yeah. I should be wearing a Santa hat right now. Fa la la la. Let's do this. Life Day is coming.
Starbucks has their Christmas cup, so it's over, baby.
Well, I think like August 20th, they're like pumpkin spice everywhere, and I'm like, I don't know.
And I think I saw on Instagram that like this Mickey, whatever the Halloween thing's called, not so spooky, whatever, is down, and the Christmas stuff is up, which is cool. If you don't want to like be there at Christmas, you can at least experience Christmas now.
I'll tell you, in the future, I 100% am interested in going to Galaxy's Edge for Life Day.
Oh yeah,
that sounds like it would be a lot of fun. I don't know what it is. Desi got to let us know what's going on there, but it sounds like that would be a good time. Chewie running around in his red robes. I wonder if they just have like random, like off the wall, weird acid trip stuff happening while you're there, like the special,
the dancing.
Andrew, would you go for that?
For the Life Day thing? Only if I can see Chewie's grandpa sitting in his chair watching VR porn.
Stir, whip, stir, whip, whip. Rest in power, B. Arthur.
Yeah. Brock, I'm glad you made it for the 300th episode. It was a lot of fun. Bye. Oh, I don't disappear anymore.
This is Rebel Scum. That was what I was pitching. It was like 300.
Yeah, that's right.
Boom. We did it.
Should we all have like a filter to make us look like Leonidas? Can we do that?
This is Scum. I was saying, Brock, to Andrew before he came on about I watched our first one that we posted on YouTube, not the one with video, before video, and in it I kind of just clicked on it like randomly. I picked a spot, and it was me saying how Rogue One might fail, but Solo will be there to pick it up because Solo's gonna be huge.
That's one thing that like I wish we had done was like archive certain sections of our episodes and be like, or just like, what did we think would be the next thing, or how did we think the last movie would end, or
I definitely thought Solo was going to make a ton of money and Rogue One might be okay. This was also 2 months before Rogue One came out, right? So it was like the hype was there. I was laughing at it. I thought it was pretty funny to bring up. Do you guys want to go to the odds?
Let's do it.
Yeah. For the odds, we are going to invite Patreon members to join. The link is
Wow.
in Patreon now to join us. So there's that. But before we do that, we got to play this right here.
Successfully navigating an asteroid field is approximately 3,720 to 1.
Never tell me the odds.
Oh,
We did it! We played
you gotta
the
have
video!
that frame of Quill and Mando for no reason. Boom, 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 boom. Patreon.com/Rebel
Didn't even tag with
Scum Podcast. You pay us money, we put in random frames. If you like what we do and you want to support us and you want 300 more episodes, why don't you go to Rebel Scum Podcast /Patreon.com/Rebel Scum Podcast and be one of the wonderful few that think we're great and constantly listen to us babble about space. And those
And we are
wonderful people.
already taking suggestions for what to include in episode 512.
Yeah.
So
512.
cast your votes now.
Those wonderful people that tell us what to do are Heidi Feder, executive producer, Barry Brophy, Dennis Allen, Randy Kenobi, Mary Kristen Aton, Dale Erdman. I don't know where I got Jeff from. There's not even
He's right after
Jeff is
Jeff.
the next one. Jeff Wilson. Wow, that's like beautiful mind stuff right there. Phil Staniforth, Rez, Scott D, Josh Price,
Matt W, Frank Perkins, Neil Lowry, Cosmic Girl 02, Gleek Play One, and there's Disney, Desi, Charlotte, and Ron Prasak.
Whoa.
Hope I'm pronouncing that right. I might not be. Let's go. Okay, our first odd. We're gonna go to a video clip.
Let's do it.
First odd. How do I do this? Go here. Here we go.
Hey, this is Pete Fletcher from Around the Galaxy, congratulating my friends at Rebel Scum for their 300th episode. 300 episodes. And listen, it is not easy to do that in Canada. They have to record the episode. They have to put it on a little cylinder that they then put on Mooseback and bring it down to the Canadian Post. And then from there, they are able to put it up on the internet for the rest of the world to listen to. And that is a commitment to Star Wars fandom that I don't think enough people recognize. But in all seriousness, thank you so much for having me be on your show a handful of times, most specifically as sort of your regular Thanksgiving guest. And that is an honor and a pleasure. It's now part of my Thanksgiving tradition to be part of your Thanksgiving tradition. And hey, congratulations to your Leafs, who at this moment happen to be a little bit better than the Flyers. But you know what? Neither team's going to make the playoffs. I know it's a Star Wars podcast and sports may be off limits. But listen, may the force be with you. And here's at least 300 more episodes.
At least.
He knows about the cylinders. Get him.
And the moose, apparently. And we got Desi here joining us. Hey, Desi.
What?
Hey.
So Pete will be on the Thanksgiving show this year.
Nice.
Yeah, so 100%. Here we go. Our first odd. Andrew Fantasia will be canon by episode 600. Will Andrew be canon by episode 600? I'll go first.
I'll accept nothing less than 4%. Thank you.
0.01% from me. Desi?
I'm going to go 3.5%.
Oh,
wow.
Never tell me the odds.
Brock?
I'm gonna go 100%.
Whoa!
But here's my caveat. Podcast gets canceled at episode 599.
Okay.
So.
And Andrew?
I'm going to go 17.
Hey,
It's so good. It's so
of
good
all of
every
us
time.
here, I'm the only one who's actually canon.
Yeah, there
Oh,
you go.
it's true.
Absolutely.
It's true.
Absolutely.
Are they going to put you in a novel? Is Claudia Gray writing your character in?
I hope so. It's happening
Andrew,
right now.
What's your canon on, Andrew?
I'm going to go 17% because I'm going to get me some fancy new headshots and I'm going to get cast in a Star Wars in the background somewhere as some yak phase guy and get a toy, and then you'll see who's canon.
If we can get a toy made of you, we'll make you canon for sure. I'm down for that.
And then AI will steal my face.
All right, next on.
Hey, Rebel Scum Podcast. It's Lauren from the Galactic
yeah.
Podcast. I got a question for you guys. What are the odds of more Clone Wars references in future Star Wars projects? I want to know. What do you got? Let me know your odds.
Ooh, Brock.
Is Filoni directing or writing it or on set?
It's up to you. Sure.
I'm gonna say 65%. I'm pretty optimistic. I think people are like, yeah. We'll put all the things. Yeah, for sure.
All right, Desi.
I'm gonna go with 100% because this is definitely happening. It's absolutely gonna have some kind of tie-in with the new movie that's coming out that's supposed to combine all of the Mandoverse.
Yeah. Oh,
we're getting so small now.
Boom. Hi.
Hi.
I'm gonna go 90.1. Andrew.
I'm gonna go 100 because Tamara Morrison needs work.
Heidi, did you hear the odd?
No, I'm sorry.
The odds of more Clone Wars references in live action.
Oh yeah, 100%.
100%. We're all Hondo percent on this one for our 3 Hondo episode.
Heidi, what's your cat's name?
Chance.
Hi, Chance.
Chance.
Who's your favorite Watto?
The one on the Pepsi can.
We don't like Pepsi.
Yeah, but it's Star Wars. All right, and our final odd. Here we go. I don't even know if we're going to be on screen for this because we're so tiny now.
And on Rebel Scum podcast, it is your friend Ardo Cal here. I am in the Sports Center studio in Bristol, Connecticut, here at ESPN, and I have a very important question. Before that, I want to congratulate you on 300 episodes. That is marvelous. 300 quality episodes talking Star Wars, the thing we all love deep in our hearts. I have a question for you. And no, James, it doesn't have to do with It's a Corner. That's a reference you'll have to explain on a future podcast. But here's my question. So we just watched the Ahsoka series, and we saw a character early on in that series called Marok, and that got the theories going, right? The tinfoil hat theories on who Marok might actually be, possibly. And one of those theories, which was a very good theory, was the idea that Marok could have actually been Merrick with a Galen as the first name. What if it was Starkiller, the other apprentice of Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader? Now, that didn't happen, but Sam Witwer's certainly involved in the Star Wars universe, and Star Wars fans love Sam Witwer, and Sam Witwer loves Star Wars. So my question to you on your landmark historic milestone 300th episode is there a possibility? Could we perhaps one day see Starkiller in the Mandoverse? Could it be apprentice versus apprentice with Ahsoka? Or do we just see Starkiller in some way, shape, or form in a future Star Wars series in the Mandoverse? Let the world know. And once again, congratulations on 300 episodes. You guys are great. It's a corner.
What a flex. Like, I'm just in the ESPN studio.
And his own Ardo Cal. Have you seen the place I work? Have you seen it? Oh. Anyways,
he actually has a Star Wars podcast as well, which I believe is called Never Tell Me the Odds. So check that. Yeah, I know, it's randomly. We got Sooner Throng in the chat saying 45%. And I'm going to start with Andrew Fantasia because no one knows this. Not everyone's aware of this, but Starkiller is Andrew's favorite character in Star Wars. And I can't wait to hear what he has to say because he is a huge Starkiller fan. Huge Starkiller fan.
There's not enough skin on my body for the amount of Starkiller tattoos I have planned. Let me tell you. I hope the answer is 0. Starkiller is one of the few pillars of Star Wars that if it crumbled, I would be okay with. So yeah, 0 is my answer. And
you're going 0. Brock.
the character was always cool, and it would be like nice to see like a reference to it, but like I don't know, like that's like asking. It's just sort of like the fans that want Starkiller in it. Well, I feel like that group of people will be like, it has to be right, it has to be right, and it's just like, does it though? And wouldn't it kind of take you out of it? That's like I feel like it would be. He'd be in one of the episodes of the movies, and he kind of like wink to the screen and like, you know what I'm talking about. And then like my parents are like, I have no idea what they're talking about. I'm gonna go. Is this the last odd?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go full Brock on this because that's the thing we do here. So 50-50.
Heidi, what about you?
I don't know. I could see them doing it. I guess I'm gonna cop out and go full Brock too because I didn't really play the games, to be honest with you. So I don't know. Maybe I'll go more like 49.999%.
Perfect. Desi, what about you?
Are we talking like this could be anything? Like he could just be mentioned casually without actually showing up, or are we saying like he's going to show up and have a real role?
It could be anything. We'll go anything because I really want you to have a high odd to piss Andrew off.
Okay. If it can be literally anything, then I'm going to execute order 66%.
Oh, we've never had that one before. That's a good one.
Nice.
That's because
that's canon.
Oh, the canon people know where it's at.
Absolutely. I'm gonna go full Brock as well on this one. And because I don't think you do it just to do it. I think there has to be a reason. But Filoni's always done the thing where if there's a character to use that exists in Legends, use that character. The only thing is, to Andrew's point of hating him so much, is he is very powerful. So it might be a little too much to use a character like that in your canonical storytelling. You have to tone him down probably a little bit, but yeah, whatever. Sam Witwer, where you at? Bring it.
I
you know
feel
what?
like.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, it's like I feel like it would be like the Quinlan Vos reference in Obi-Wan, where you're like, oh, but like it doesn't. If you're not gonna chase it, then what's the point? Sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, no, you know what they can do? Put him on the screen, give him a big scene, and invite all the people from Twitter who called Rey a Mary Sue. And when Starkiller does his thing, just turn to all those people and go, and.
I think you could pull whatever. You could pull it all off. Those are our odds. Let us know what your odds are in the comments to the side. Before we get Brock, do you have news today?
No.
We did
Columbia has a new Star Wars line that makes coats that look like your X-wing pilots. They're really cool. They're also very expensive, but like, I don't know. Those are cool. And then I think. Did you guys talk about apparently they're going to start shooting New Jedi Order in 2024? Or is that just BS? Which is
that's
the
Rey
movie. Yeah.
Well, let's talk. I was going to say let's talk about this Rey movie a little bit because I know where some people stand on it. For me, look, the rumor is they're going to shoot in 2024, but there was a writer's strike and now an actor's strike, so who knows who knows how far along they were. And Andrew and I were talking about it at the beginning where we kind of don't trust any of the. We've talked about this in the past. We don't trust what they've announced necessarily. I do believe that they're planning this movie. I hope there's a plan for it, though. And I know Desi really doesn't. It's right now biting her tongue because how do you have the Rey movie without Kylo Ren? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Me or Heidi?
Yeah, you. Heidi
I have zero interest in a Rey movie without Ben in it as well. If we find out that like one of these people that she's the master of, like one of her apprentices is actually her child that she and Ben created in the Force, then maybe I'd be interested. But otherwise, if she just plays a tiny part in it, then fine. I just hope she never calls herself Rey Skywalker again. That was lame.
The whole movie is like, hey, Rey Skywalker, come here.
I don't want anyone calling her Master Skywalker, please.
What if she calls herself Rey Solo?
Then I would be 100% in.
I think you're going to get a lot of Master Skywalker, and like it sounds
Cool.
like that's. I mean, I haven't seen the script. I don't think there is one, but I want to know, Heidi, how do you feel about this Rey movie? Are you into it?
I'm into anything new. But I also heard a rumor about a Ben Solo movie, so I don't know what that's about.
Well, someone interviewed Adam Driver, I believe, or something about it. There was a rumor that he was coming back. I can't remember what it was though. That was a little. I mean, there's so many strikes now that everything kind of stopped. But I heard he said he was like hinting at something. I don't know if you guys heard anything like that, but I
We
think
never
with
saw his ghost.
we didn't see his ghost.
Show me the body. Where's the body?
But like with Star Wars right now, I think with Lucasfilm's approach to it is anything is possible, everything's on the table, is what we've heard in the past, and I think that's probably the case now. And if somebody showed up and they had a Ben Solo movie that they believe would work, I think we would get it. Andrew, are you looking forward to the Rey movie?
Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not holding my breath because as far as I'm concerned, I don't even know if we're getting Skeleton Crew yet. Like I'm just, I'm taking it one step at a time because they've made it the kind of place where you have to take it one step at a time. You can't look ahead anymore. But of course I want to see Rey again. Of course I want to see what the new Jedi Order looks like. Of course I want to see her running around having adventures with her yellow lightsaber so that we can, actually have a yellow lightsaber on screen for more than a few seconds. And I mean, the thought of her maintaining a friendship with Ghost Ben all throughout sounds really fun to me. It could be like the classic Bill Cosby film Ghost Dad, but just more Star Warsy. Oh yeah, that's right. We don't talk about it. It could be like the classic Kenneth Branagh. No, I don't know what I'm talking
Patrick
about anymore.
Swayze.
Yeah, that
Patrick
one.
Swayze.
Yeah, they can
Kenneth
make some
Branagh.
space pottery. Right? They can get into funny situations where she's like in a cave and she's like, I can't see in the dark. And he's like, but I do because I'm a ghost. And then they can help each other out. Right?
Bro.
I would love that.
Hey, if Rey comes back, does that mean BB-8 comes back? Because then I'm all in.
Mm-hmm. And
Why?
Finn and Poe, like bring them all,
Why?
man.
Why?
BB-8
What?
is Poe's droid. I
Yeah,
don't
okay, yeah.
understand
Oh, okay,
why he
yeah.
goes with her to
Yeah.
Tatooine.
You're absolutely correct. Like, I'm all in on Poe Dameron. So, like,
Maybe the movie is like a custody hearing between her and Poe, like who gets BB-8.
yeah,
It's Kramer
that'd be
versus
awesome.
Kramer.
I was in this store that we have in Canada called Walmart. I was in the toy section, and they had this cool like Star Wars things I had never seen before, and it was the three like droids, like R2, BB-8, and Chopper, and you push down, and they have like big heads, and you push down, and they make noise, and I'm like, they're like $25 each. I was like, I want all of these, but I was like, I love droids. I love like they do that in every single thing Star Wars. I know this totally deviates, but like if I could get more BB-8, I'd be all in. So whoever, like Constable Vesuvio and BB-8 movie, I'm in.
Yeah, hopefully Constable Zuvio shows up in the Rey movie. That's the one person that we need to show. You know what though? Like, because in A New Hope, if you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you can ever imagine. Blah 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 blah. But does he really? Like, does he become more powerful? I mean, yeah, he helps, I guess, guide the Luke blow up the Death, maybe. But I don't think we've really seen the full potential of Force Ghosts yet. And I think bringing Kylo back, and maybe Benjamin, bring back Benjamin. Maybe we could see it in that form. Like maybe there's something more to the Force Ghost than just sitting on a log talking about from a certain point of view or something.
Well, see, I know like how I know people had a bad taste in their mouth with somehow Palpatine returned, but I wouldn't mind like Palps coming back as like a red Force Ghost.
Oh yeah,
Andrew,
that would be cool.
Palpanormal activity, yes, please.
That's a
No,
direction they
yeah.
could have taken the sequels for sure too. Though was had that going on.
Maybe-
You know what that? Sorry, Heidi.
I was just gonna say maybe like a battle between a bunch of red Force Ghosts and blue Force
Yeah,
Ghosts. I don't know.
That-
I'm dare to dream. I don't know.
that the galaxy implode. That's the world between worlds. The real story of the world between the worlds. I had something on my mind about the Palpatine line. Somehow Palpatine returned. I still think that's the most misunderstood line in the sequels, because I don't think that was the explanation. Now that's what people perceived it as, but I don't think that was actually the explanation in the movie for how he returned.
The explanation in the movie was the line from the prequels.
Yes.
Which was, the dark side of the force is a pathway to many abilities some may call unnatural. That's it.
Yeah. Like it's still,
I don't see how that's better.
I didn't say no. I'm not saying the explanation is good. I'm just saying the line of somehow he returned. That's meant to be like a frustrated, like somehow this guy's back, and people took it as that's how they explained it. No, they explained it with the prequel line that still doesn't work. I'm not debating that. It's the other line that. But Sooner Thrawn wants to know when we'll see a Bothan.
I mean, Mandalorian is creeping up on that. Or no, sorry, not Mandalorian. I'm lost now. Andor's creeping up on some like Mon Mothma rebellion stuff. Yeah, so there's going to be some Bothans in there, I think. Sith can't be ghosts. That's why they fight so hard to die. Yeah.
And the beauty is, like, if they ever do Bothan, someone on the internet is going to be like, "That's not what they look like." I'm like, "We never seen them." I think.
Somebody on the internet will complain about everything.
Yeah.
That is the. I mean, I don't know how you complain about The Rise of Skywalker. It's start to finish the most perfect movie I've ever seen.
It's like Toy Story 3, Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker.
It's more like Rise of Skywalker, Toy Story 4.
I think Rise of Skywalker. I think what you got is you got like The Last Jedi, New Hope, and then you have Empire Strikes Back and Toy Story 2, and then you have Rise of Skywalker and Toy Story 4 right above all of it. I think that's. I've never seen Toy Story 4, so I'm.
My thing about Rise of Skywalker, I wasn't bored. I think what happened is somebody had a 4-hour story and they crammed it into a 2.5-hour movie.
It's an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Yeah.
Guys, I have to take this phone call. Just go on without me, okay? Hello.
Is it Kathleen? Was she fired?
I point,
no way.
I point this way, right? Okay, I'm ready.
Guys, Brock, we got to check the board.
Damn it! I gotta draw like an X on the wall as like point at the X.
It took 57 minutes and 27 seconds, but Kathleen Kennedy has just been let go from Lucasfilm for the second time this hour.
That's the most shocking thing. I did not see that coming at all.
No one did. This phone call, it blew my mind that it didn't have to ring. The phone didn't even have to ring. I just knew that the call was coming from inside the house. And Kathleen Kennedy,
according to WeGotThisCovered.com, Kathleen is spending her free time starting a Star Wars centric podcast. So we can look forward to that.
Rebel Dumb podcast. Just laughs on us.
Mike Zero predicted.
Kathleen Kennedy is the Billy Martin of Lucasfilm.
Yeah, I feel like you said that before. Yeah. It's kind of true. It actually kind of true.
Sorry, I thought it was original thought in my head.
No, it's still good. It's still good.
I just find it funny that everybody that complains about Kathleen Kennedy, I don't think understands what she does. I mean, I don't know if she's doing a good job or not, to be honest, but I don't think the people that are complaining knows exactly what she does. They just know that she's the face that they can throw in the mud.
George Lucas could be running it and put out movies, and they'd be just as harsh. So
absolutely,
yeah, that's true.
They were.
If it's something they like, then it's not because of Kathleen Kennedy. It's because of Dave Filoni or whoever was directing it. If it's something they don't like, then it's not JJ's fault. It's Kathleen Kennedy's fault.
Right.
She forced J.J. Abrams to do all the stuff in that movie.
She actually wrote it for him and then signed his name at the bottom.
She built a giant flow chart that just said dyad at the top, and she was like,
So you're going to kill him in the first one, but then you're going to bring him back in the third one, and we're never going to understand why Harrison Ford is in this. Okay? Perfect. But you're going to make it meaningful, so we're all in. It'll be like, that didn't make any sense, right?
I think that the problem with The Rise of Skywalker going with The Last Jedi was I really just think J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson were like oil and water. Like they were just like they did not have the same view at all on what they were doing. And J.J. Abrams started it, and then Ryan Johnson continued it, and then J.J. was like, "Well, I'm going to go and do what I want to do." And then I think he over course corrected, like he went a little too far. Tim Burton and Batman Returns.
I've heard this analogy before, where there's two types of kids on the playground who like playing with their Star Wars toys. JJ was the type of kid who liked reenacting the movies with his toys, and Ryan was the kind of kid who liked making up new stories.
I like that.
Absolutely.
I was totally a Ryan.
It's so true, though. Like, yeah,
that's not bad. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But what are Favreau and Filoni? Are they just like...
I think they also like making up their own stories.
With existing stories.
That they made up.
And I think they also grabbed a G.I. Joe and they were like, "You're a Mandalorian now."
That's how they write that. I don't know. For me, I think the Disney era has been a good one. There have been some stumbling blocks, but I mean, they pumped up so much material in 11 years, more than George Lucas did in 20, 30, and 30. Like more than he did in 30, they did in 11. So you're going to stumble and fall, and maybe it sounds like they're going a different direction now. We're going to focus on quality over quantity, but we haven't really been inundated with that much quantity either of stuff. There's been a lot, but compared to like MCU, there hasn't been anything basically.
I will say this: Jane Foster looks an awful lot like Padme Amidala.
Right?
You think so?
It's like you'll come do that one move, come back for that 1 or 2 movies you did, but not the 3 movies that's like, oh wait, yeah, she's in all 3 movies. I was like, kind of a big deal. They wrote your character out. We'll keep you.
Also looks a lot like Kira.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. Everybody works. It's just like they just go across the hall now. They're just like, oh, I got a Saturday open. What do you want to shoot?
I think to bring up Kira though, I think they need to bring Kira back. She's a back. Like there's so much you can do there, and you can separate Kira from Solo if you want to. Like I think she
can have her own adventures. The comics did a lot of great stuff with Kira. I don't know if you guys have read all the Hidden Empire stuff and the Crimson Dawn stuff that they were doing.
Isn't it canon that Lando had a daughter? Do we know who the daughter's mom is? Could Kira be the daughter's mom?
See, I actually had the theory that after Leia and Han broke up, that she had a fling with Lando, and that.
I thought she was Ray's mom.
I mean, why not?
I thought she was Ray's mom too.
I feel like every single being in Star Wars had a fling with Lando at one point or another.
Like
even some of the married ones.
Even droids.
Yeah.
The Lando movie coming out is just Lando and
didn't Holdo have a fling?
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
I think there's a comic where said Lando and Holdo were an item for a while.
Amazing.
That's
the movie we need. A rom-com with Lando and Holdo. It's a 90-minute rom-com all on Naboo.
I want a rom-com with Pelimoto and the Major Domo.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Those you know how on Disney Plus the Simpsons does those like little shorts with Maggie. Yeah. Like they have to do that with the random side characters, like right there, Major Domo and Pelimoto. That'd be fantastic. And, oh man, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just for whatever reason I rewatched some of that Forces of Destiny Star Wars show they had on YouTube with all female characters. I'm like, this was good. Make more of something like this.
That was a great show.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, in my head canon, there's a scene cut from A New Hope where right before Luke and Obi-Wan sit with Han, he's making out with Brunette, and he shoos her away. In my head canon, that's Pelimoto
Yo, I'm
And
so
he's
in.
hooking up with her to get discounts at the garage.
Wow.
I will. I do think
like
Star Wars needs to have more fun with Star Wars. Like they need to allow those types of things to just happen. They just have fun with it for views. They don't have to. They're too. If you don't be too tied down with canon, just tell me a fun story. Side like we talked about it last week, Brock, with like the Halloween special idea. Just take some characters and have them do something fun, and we'll be along for the ride. It doesn't have to connect to anything. We're going to watch it, and I think people would enjoy it. Maybe that's just me, but that's how I feel.
I'd like for Detours to be released.
Yes. Yes. I don't. Yeah, because they were afraid that they wanted Vader to be scary or something, so they didn't release it. Like, I think society has. We're okay with having.
Yeah, we
understand.
Vader.
We can separate them. Yeah, I mean, we can separate them.
Yeah, because they don't make Vader goofy in the Lego movies.
No, he's serious in the Lego movies. Everyone is serious. We're gonna go to top 5.
Top 5.
You two don't have to join us in saying anything, but you can if you want. Let me know. Just chime in anytime. It's top 5 moments from the first 300 episodes, and they have to be very specific, time-stamped. My number 5 is, I think, from Andrew's first time on. No, it might have been the second or third time on. We did top 5 Jar Jar moments. That was the dumbest thing we've ever done, I think, and it still makes me laugh thinking of Jar Jar moments. So my number 5 is top 5 Jar Jar moments.
That almost made my list.
Brock?
My number 5 is going to be Hondo. No, that's too many times. That's not specific. I'm probably gonna say top 5 was the first one was like when we hit 1,000 subscribers. I'm like, oh, this is real.
I remember being in New York when we hit 700 or 800, and you're like, oh my god, what is going on? Yeah. Andrew?
My number 5 is losing to Rob at trivia.
Everyone lost to Rob at trivia.
Yeah.
Everyone. You know what's funny is Josh at the Den of Nerds, he has like 400 million subscribers now. And people are finding the one where he loses to Rob. And then, like I'll randomly see comments on that one every once in a while, and I'll get a good laugh. Because everyone lost to Rob, and you lost bad.
Yeah, that's why he retired as the undisputed champ.
Yeah, he won't come back on a trivia now. I've been trying to get him, and he won't do it. So I don't know. Do you either Desi or Heidi anything you want to say? I put you on the spot with this, so
I know. I'm trying to think.
I have a number 1.
Okay.
I guess I'll put on the list every year rankings.
Yeah.
The rankings list is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the first time I listened to your rankings and I was screaming because everybody was so wrong.
Your rankings is actually one of the easiest ones to count.
I think I literally became a Patreon subscriber like the day after I saw your first rankings because I was like, I need to be involved next time because this cannot happen again.
We need to check, and it has changed, but not the way you wanted to.
What did we have last that year, Desi? Do you remember?
I feel like it was before The Last Jedi came out. So, no, maybe. It was, whatever it was like things like Attack of the Clones I thought was ranked way too high. I don't remember the exact ones, but I just remember thinking, nope, they're all wrong. Every single one of these is wrong.
Everyone is wrong. The fun thing about that, though, I don't know, Brock, how you feel, but it's because it's not our list. It's like a list of so many people. Because the first one I think was like 6 or 7, but now like we've been doing like 30 or 40 people, and it gets a while to add them up. But it's fun because it's actually like now it's not either any of our opinions personally. It's just this thing.
It's a fun system. We started doing it on Infinity Rewatch in the past couple of years, and it's been so fun to do that math and be like, ooh, not everybody hates Iron Man 2. All right.
The 100 different titles that are on that list, and I'm like,
I can't even think of all the Marvel movies. When you ask me to do it, I'm like, I don't remember the Marvel movies. And then like I haven't seen half of them now because there's so many of them.
like
but I did put Guardians Christmas #1, and who was it? Somebody got mad at me, and I was like, "Look, it's Christmas." I didn't actually think it was the best one, but I was like, "It's Christmas. I love Christmas. I don't care." You put a
I
Christmas
mean, it's
light
got
or
Kevin Bacon in it.
It
Kevin
does, it's great.
Bacon.
I had fun with it. I didn't think it was the greatest thing in the world. I liked Werewolf by Night better. At night, Werewolf.
Werewolf
Night. I haven't watched the colors. All right, let's number 4. The first time we did a vote of no confidence, it was the middle of a podcast, and Andrew, you said you didn't. Well, you didn't. No, Rob didn't like the performance of Ian McDermott in Revenge of the Sith, or so I can't remember what it was, and you were like, "You blasphemous!" and you guys had a fake feud, and then that's where we did the trivia after that, was based on that feud. So that's my number 4. Brock?
I didn't remember any of that. I was just like, oh yeah, it was like we were WWE or something.
Yeah, it was like in the middle of it. We planned it, but anyway, Brock.
It's already been mentioned, but I'm gonna say the first time we did the trivia, we actually built a set.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, whatever, just call whatever.
You had multiple cameras going.
We wore suit jackets for whatever reason.
We need to bring that back. I want trivia round 3.
We went to a studio to record that. Andrew.
Yeah, it was a warehouse.
We'll call it a studio.
My number 4 is the invention of the terms full Brock and SheVP.
Oh, yeah.
No joke. I literally just wrote down full Brock.
Full Brock was. Do you remember why we did that, Brock?
I feel like I kept saying I was 50-50 on so many things for so long. It was like, oh, you're just going full Brock on this. Perfect.
Like the first few weeks, everything was 50-50. I had a 50%. It was always and then eventually it was just, we're full Brock in it. It's full Brock. And then we made a t-shirt, and people started buying that t-shirt. It was crazy. Who is the Rob guy? Ian was a great Sith. Ooh, maybe we'll have Rob versus Sooner Thrawn in a trivia battle.
Oh, there we go.
Oh.
Heidi, anything you want to say?
I just say all the theories we've gotten wrong over the years.
Yeah. Oh.
My favorite thumbnail, I think I don't know. I'd have to go back and listen to the actual thing, but I can just tell by the podcast the theory was that Snoke and I'm blocking Maz Kanata were the same person.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That video was, I think it was like our second or third video we posted on YouTube. The first one was like, I think Brock and I reacting to the Rogue One trailer at Celebration Europe. We weren't even really a podcast yet. And then the second one was a book review from Andrew, I believe. And then that video, Heidi, our friend Manny, he texts me, he goes, I have a theory about Star Wars. I go, well, voice it on your phone, send it to me, and I'll put it together. I didn't know what it was. He didn't tell me. And then he said, Maz is Snoke. I'm like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So I took this video, I put the audio, I put the thing together, uploaded it to YouTube, and I got no views. And I changed a couple things, and it's got like 60,000. It's our biggest watched video by a lot. And that's what it was like, Brock, we need to do stuff on YouTube now. And so that was the first video that got us, and I think that got us like a few hundred subscribers, that video alone. And people, I think, were thinking it was a real video, but it was a lot. That one was, editing it was the dumbest thing I've ever done. Because who thinks of that? And it probably would have been a better Snoke had that happened. Desi?
Oh, I said my number 4 already.
Oh, the full Brock?
I just want to include how we would always go on Twitter and joke that fake spoilers about how it was Jar Jar Binks. And when I watched that episode of Mandalorian, when they revealed who rescued Grogu, I had intended to go on Twitter and write, I can't believe Jar Jar Binks rescued Grogu. But I couldn't do that because then that would have actually
That's why you always fall back on Ben Quadinaros.
Yeah.
Always Benny Quads. My number 3 is the trivia, the Duel of the Fates, the first one we did. We did some really fun ones after. We did one, if you remember, where we didn't record the audio, so we never got to air it. And
what a fun time.
And true story, Andrew lost that one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was fun.
You lost all of them. That is canon.
Like, and the thing that the best part is Andrew's like the most knowledgeable of Star Wars of all, and he just keeps blowing it. Brock, you're number 3.
I was gonna say something, but then when Heidi mentioned Twitter, it dislodged a memory. It's the time, James, you tweeted at Ryan Johnson. What do you call a flock? A group of porgs, and he tweeted back at you. A group of porgs is called a murder. And I'm like, we made it.
That was, yeah. I tweeted like you, whatever episode that was. You could see I do it in the middle of the show.
Yeah.
And then you stayed over after, and we were like, oh my god, that was fun. Andrew,
my number 3 is doing those episodes where I showcased a lot of retro stuff, particularly Star Wars miniatures and all those Legends books, because those were so much fun to do. And you would get all those people in the comments jumping out who are like, oh my God, Star Wars miniatures. And then it just became this time capsule of like early 2000s Star Wars merch. I love it.
Those videos consistently get comments and views. It's crazy how people randomly find it. Heidi and Desi?
I'm going to go with hearing my name for the first time after I became a Patreon supporter. I don't know. It just always brings a smile to my face when I hear the names. And it's funny because another Patreon supporter is married to a girl that I used to work with, and we sat next to each other for like 3 years. And I didn't even know that she and her husband were big Star Wars fans until I heard his name on the list.
Wow.
That's
so
amazing. Cool. That's awesome, Heidi.
Kathleen Kennedy being fired.
I really wish I knew the first episode.
Yeah.
Like, again, I've said this. I wish we ever like clipping things. Like we could have had so many compilations of like full Brocks and like, hey, what's up, Scums, and like, or what do I say at the end? Rebel Scum, whatever. But like the Kathleen Kennedy getting fired would be amazing. Like an auto tune. She's fired. She's fired.
I think we still fired her less than some other YouTube channels out there. Like, she's awesome. My number 2, when we went to Star Wars Celebration, that was fun. Star Wars Celebration. That was almost 6.5 years ago. We went there, and now they've stopped. We didn't get it then, but they've stopped doing media for podcasts because there's 500,000 Star Wars podcasts. But Andrew went as a media representative.
That was rad.
Brock, your number 2?
My number 2, I agree with you on that. Like actually going to Celebration was crazy. But my number 2 is going to be the insanity of the amount of times we would record during COVID. Like the beginning first year of COVID. God. We were doing it all the time. And I honestly, like, as much as we had wonderful Patreons like yourselves here, I was like, I feel like I didn't really understand how many people were actually like engaging with us till COVID, when people were like, oh, I'm also awake right now. I'm like, oh, trivia. Like we would do trivia like once a day.
At lunchtime,
and like half the time is like this game is broken.
The wrong
I forgot
answer.
about that trivia. That was nuts.
So like that, like it's crazy to think, and like, and it was funny because it's like, as a podcast YouTube show, we were already kind of prepared to be on video calls because at this point James is already living in the woods, so it's just me in a room. So I was just like, we are ready.
We did like a Monday Night Live show, and then we were live every day at lunch. We did the stupid trivia every day at lunch.
I remember during trivia, you would ask the question and I would type in my answer, and I would be wrong like half the time. But I felt like there was one guy, I don't even remember who it was, who was right every time. And I noticed that everybody else just waited until he answered, and then they said the same thing. I'm like, there's no way you guys are all getting this right, and I'm the only one who's getting it wrong. Just everybody's just waiting for him to answer before they all answered.
100% that was happening. 100. We should have muted comments on that one while we ask questions. Mute comments until after. Andrew, did we go to you?
Number 2. I cheated on my number 2 because it's not from an episode. In fact, it's from, I'm pretty sure, before the show even began, but it was like a precursor to it, so I had to include it. And that is lining up in front of the Disney store at Square One to get Force Awakens toys.
Yeah.
That's like, it's so synonymous with Rebel Scum to me that I have to keep reminding myself it was almost a full year before we started the podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
we were
used to
like,
get-
you can't look at Ray because you haven't seen Force
Yeah,
Awakens.
that's
yet.
right.
It might ruin things for you. Yeah.
You guys had seen it and I had it and I got
Wow.
the Ray toy and I remember showing it to you like this and with my head turned away and I'm like, should I look? Should I look? And you guys were like, nah, just wait. Just wait.
Actually, the employee there was pretty good about it too. He was like, "Oh, you haven't seen it? Turn around!" Like he was
Yeah.
So what it was the Elite figures that they had at the Disney store for the Force Awakens. I got really into them, and I made these guys come once or twice. And the last one, Andrew hadn't seen the movie yet. It was the official release date of it, but we saw it the night before. And Andrew's like, "I'm going Saturdays." I'm like, "You can't look at the toys." So that's what he's referencing. Heidi and Desi.
I'm gonna go with every time you guys signed it off for a while there, Brock kept trying to be clever and come up with something different other than Rebel Scum to say. So he'd be like, Mandalorian Scum.
Yeah, whatever it was like, whatever the episode was about or what we just talked about.
It just cracked me up every time he came up with something different.
I love that joke too. Keep doing it.
Never.
No, he's done. Heidi?
I think the one time I was on and we were talking about how I got involved in Star Wars, and I was talking about my cousin and all his action figures. And then I went on about how he had a Blue Squadron Luke Skywalker and how I went online and I talked to people online about the figure, and they said I was remembering wrong. No such figure existed. And I said, I know that figure existed. And then 2 years ago, my niece got married, and I ran into him. I said, I know you had a Blue Squadron Luke Skywalker. And he started laughing. He's like, yeah, the paint chipped off, and his mom didn't have a red marker, so she colored it in with a blue one.
That's awesome.
Make that canon. And my number one, hanging out with everyone once. I stole that from Brock.
Darn it. That's mine too.
Yeah, because it's fun.
Yeah.
Andrew, who is not canon?
My number one is becoming canon. No, my number one is both of the times going to Star Wars Celebration. Because not only was it something that I had always knew Celebration existed and I just never thought anything of it. So, getting to go there was kind of a big deal. But more importantly, it kind of opened my eyes to how big the community was and getting to just hear from other Star Wars fans and meet other Star Wars people and to know that these people are coming from all over the world. And every once in a while, one of them would randomly be like, hey, it's Rebel Scum Podcast. And I'd be like, holy crap. Like, did you hear that? Those people recognize this. So it brought the community together in a way I never would have imagined. And I think that when you start making a podcast, that's kind of the dream that's in your heart when you started off. So the fact that we got there and that happened, I loved it.
That's awesome.
Yay. Heidi, Desi?
I just want to say, just meeting all of you, and I've made new friends. In fact, Desi and I, we met in Florida
it was awesome.
a couple of years ago, and we had an awesome day. And,
nice.
And, maybe even Andrew. And also understanding that I have no makeup on and I'm in my robe because I didn't know we were doing this tonight.
All good. I'm not wearing pants.
I'm gonna go with the 2 times I got to be on the rankings show as my number one. The first one I disagreed with everything, and then the second one I thought it was much better.
And we got more coming, and we're gonna have you on to talk about the Star Cruiser as well. I haven't emailed you yet. Yeah, so we're gonna. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Oh, look at that flex! Did someone go on the Star Cruiser? Was it Andrew? Did Andrew go on? Andrew, would you do that? Would you go on the Star Cruiser hotel if it was still in operation?
That's the hotel where they make it feel like you're on a ship the whole time. Is that what that was?
Yeah.
He would do it just to be able to say he was canon.
Yeah, that would be my reason. I just
shot
like,
you out the cannon.
I would apply for a job there and then quit after one day and be like, I was canon.
I was canon. Take it all right, that is our top 5 moments from the first 300 episodes. Andrew still hasn't become canon, which is great. He somehow made it through this episode without getting cut off 3 times. 2 times is a plenty. We'll wrap it up. Heidi, Desi, anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
You're my favorite Star Wars podcast, and I think you guys are awesome. Happy to be here.
Thank you. We're the only Star Wars podcast also.
No one else does this.
No one has a Star Wars podcast. Heidi?
Raylo forever.
That's right.
Yeah.
Andrew?
Well, I'm going to move on over to Hey Topanga, the Boy Meets World podcast, where I will be canon.
Is that so for those who don't know, that was Brock's first podcast.
That was my first podcast.
First podcast.
Like, maybe not. Maybe this isn't for me.
Is it available anywhere? Can anyone?
I don't think so. I don't even. It must be on my YouTube or something like that.
But I think I said this to Andrew. You and Joe, who you did it with, were ahead of the curve on doing that because now, that's all the rage. But you guys were like way ahead of it on that. This was like they did it over 10 years ago, I think.
Yeah, it was probably like a year before we started this, something like that. Yeah, and like it's a bummer because it's like I think we were like just Disney Plus was about to come out, and that was on there too. Like we were watching DVDs.
Yeah, you were.
We're like, oh. And Girl Meets World was like just about to come out as well, so it's like we could have kept going and then done that, and then
I feel like they were too early on Girl Meets World.
Yeah, probably.
Our generation was not old enough to have kids that were watching Girl Meets World yet.
Yeah,
and now like the Boy Meets World podcast, whatever it's called, is like huge. I'm like, whoa.
You guys had that. Anything you want to say, Brock?
Thank you to everyone that decides to listen to us. This is awesome. Like I'm shocked that we're still doing this, but it's great. It's like as much as like I wish James and I were in the same room. Like it's it's because of this podcast that like I feel like, oh yeah, James. To the point that when we do see each other, I'm like, oh right, you're a real person. Like it's like
we just saw each other 2 months ago.
Yeah, I know.
It's been 2 months.
So it's just like, it's a fun place, and it's nice to hear like from all of us, all of the group here. It's just like, I look forward to this podcast. And like,
oh, I forgot. I actually met Brock and Remy.
Yeah, we were like, oh, here you are.
I just looked up like, oh, I know you.
Yeah, exactly. That's wild. It's like
that's awesome.
It's like to meet in real life. It's just like, wow.
That was a Toronto Fan Expo.
That's right.
And this podcast gets me in free for years. Woo!
But I keep forgetting your wife's name. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good.
It's Remy. I'm sorry.
She doesn't listen anyway.
Yeah, she does not.
I remember when we first started, we're like, no one's gonna listen to us. And I remember being on SoundCloud. You're like, it's on SoundCloud. It has, I think it was like 20 listens. We're like, we're famous. Let's keep going. But we both made like this pact early on, and I tell people who start podcasts this all the time, like you got to do it every week. You can't take a week off for like we do now, because we do it. But remember the first like few months, we were like, we're going on vacation. You got to do it from the hotel room. Got to do it from here. We did it from everywhere that first month or so, because once you stop, it's hard to get back into it and keep going unless you've done it for a long time. And now we've done it for too long. So, but it's fun talking to all of you, meeting all of you, everyone on Patreon, everyone that listens. It blows my mind all the time. It's awesome. Appreciate it all. Okay. Good night.
And don't worry, everybody. By the time we get to episode 400, we'll probably have a new Star Wars movie to talk about.
Oh, and it'll be Rey. It'll be called Star Wars. Rey Skywalker.
Oh.
And the opening crawl's first line will be, Ben is not involved.
Ben is not involved.
It's called
And
right,
Ray
Heidi and I are
Skywalker
out.
does not care.
Raiders of the Lost Porg, but like it's Reders. Raiders. They're good. George owns both of those things.
Very good. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. We never tell people to like and subscribe. I think people need to start doing that more.
Oh, they know.
It's awesome to have you join us for our 300th time of doing this nonsense. Have a good night, and until next time, Brock, you were always. You know what? I'm going to end it with the intro because it didn't play properly. Brock, you were always scum.
Rebel Scum.
Wasn't very creative.
300.
Hello, scumbags.
Hi.
Welcome to Rebel Scum
Podcast.
A video cast. It's our first one with video.
Hey, you can see us.
Hi.
Look at us.
I'm James.
I'm Brock.
And like we said, this is the Rebel Scum Podcast. It is our 16th podcast and our first one with our faces.
With our faces.
You're watching the 300th episode of the Rebel Scum Podcast. From odds making to list rankings and some special guests, we've got you covered. And don't forget to join us on Patreon and join the show. Here are your hosts, Brock and James, and definitely not Andrew.
You holy scum.
Rebel Scum.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.